those are all valid things. I mean, like you said, there's so many more touch points and so many things that you have to do, checks and balances for these different practices. And it's something I really need to learn more about it. But the impact that our subsidies have on our crops and on our food, I mean, we expect food to be so cheap. And then we're like, I don't know, we get that cheap food and then we realize how it was grown and we're like, well, you know what? I kind of like these more regenerative practices, but that's much more expensive. And then you dig into the weeds a little bit and you kind of figure out the whole system, subsidies, all that stuff. And you're like, this is a lot more complicated than I thought. And it's going to take a lot more time to, I don't know, kind of fix it a little bit, I guess you could say. But I mean, that was a good explanation. I mean, I know that there's a lot to unpack there when it comes to the cost of all this stuff.
And one more thing I'd like to add is also just the amount of supply out there, right? I mean, you have your
Yeah.
natural basic economics of supply and demand. And, I don't have a real number, so I'm not going to pretend to know, but let's say within this regenerative paradigm, there's probably still only 1, 2, 3%, of the whole
Yeah.
livestock world. And that's a big behemoth to fight, and plants that might be processing regenerative livestock. And this by no means, there are pretty decent scale producers out there doing amazing work. I mean, amazing work in this space. I don't even want to pretend that this is a universal statement. But if you're working with smaller processors, a large JBS facility can slaughter 300 head or 3,000 head in a day. You might be working with a processor that does 9 to 12. And that just, again, storage costs, diesel costs, freight costs. If you're a producer that isn't sending a full load and you're sending a less than full capacity load on a trailer with your animals to a processing facility, you're still paying as if that truck was going full. And so
Hmm.
that, another thing land to market does from a producer perspective, going back to that building supply chains, is the fragmented producer network across the world. But I feel right now we're talking in the US context. We're also working to bring that together to aggregate that supply and these key supply chain partners and try to find those costs where we are able to reduce the cost from a supply chain perspective, find a market buyer or a market partner who's looking into that product and start to help aggregate supply rather than just have these fragmented producers all over the world.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, even when it comes to the supply chain, like whether it's people like you guys, land to market, or just traditional, like we saw a lot of the issues that our kind of convoluted supply chain had during the pandemic. Like it's just so strained, and there's not nearly as much stuff to process, whether it's beef or traditional produce. Like it's so weird that I don't know. We need to expand our food supply system a little bit to where we have more options and more options like you guys, like land to market and the different products and brands that you guys relate. And so it's weird. I mean, we kind of need to fix all this, and it seems like companies like you guys are definitely doing their part.
Yep. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. And it's funny. I talk about global supply chains, and I also work on local supply chains. But I'd say the majority of the food I eat comes within a half a mile of where I live because I live on a ranch and I get to be a part of a local food system. So even though professionally it's important to fix these problems, I'm still a giant advocate of local food systems, of supporting your local farmer, of getting out there and knowing how your producers around you, when and if you can, are growing food for you. I mean, producers want to feed people. That is the goal. There's immense pride in that. And so it means a lot for a farmer when you take the time to understand the work they're doing. And yes, you might have to pay an additional dollar on that ground beef, maybe if you're talking about a more premium product like organic versus, your local
Hmm.
farmers market beef, not necessarily commodity ground beef. But, I still am a huge advocate of the need also for these local food sheds, if you like, where you're really engaging in your local community when and if possible. Urban cities, much different case when you're talking about a New York City, for example. But there's still amazing producers who drive in produce or drive in product every week to farmers markets in the city. Essex Farms is a farm in New York, for example. I have no affiliation with them. I've only heard about them through friends and people in the space. And I know that they do a delivery, into New York City, and they're about 2.5 hours outside. So there's always unique ways to find access. It just does come down to that price premium, and it does come down to building that market to help both the producer find and realize the true price of their product and make a living, but also make it accessible to the mass market.
Yeah, that's true, and I mean, like you were saying, you might not be able to find somebody 5, 10 minutes away from you that's a farmer, but, like, if you're in a city, but you can find somebody that's 2 or 3 hours away that's gonna be a lot better for you, a lot closer than, if you just go to a supermarket and you get beef that's actually from Brazil or Australia, and you can support those local jobs, those local careers. I mean, there's always a way. Like, it takes a little bit of research and finding the right people and connecting with them, but it's definitely possible.
And I'm not saying, there's also a time and a place for global supply chain. So that's why I was kind of
Oh,
acknowledging the
100%.
own, because that's what, if you don't have that opportunity, and or you simply, it's not everybody's passion, and that's okay. That's it's like it's everybody doesn't have to agree on everything. But that's where that land to market verification comes into play. And it's like if you do go to a grocery store, if you do want to just quickly look at a product seal and be like, okay, this is, Alexander Family Farms Dairy, land to market verified, coming from a land base that is doing well. Boom, that's what I want in my cart. You can do that, I mean, so there's just what I personally don't believe in is just looking at every problem as if the only solution is the hammer, right? When you only have a hammer, everything looks
Mm,
like a nail. And what I it's the same thing, with my job working with producers. If I were to talk with producers as if everybody was a massive meat company conglomerate, and vice versa, if I were to talk to every family producer as if they were a massive, or the opposite, it, life is not that simple. Supply chains are not that simple. There is a complexity, an inherent complexity that we as people have to address. And we as a company, Land to Market, are looking to address by working amongst the whole supply chain, by not just favoring one specific type.
yeah, that's smart. And you brought up a really good point. I mean, not everybody can buy or even really wants to get, organic or regenerative raised. And we don't need to, I don't know, we don't need to shame them because you see so much food bullying online. It's like, oh, you don't need to eat beef. You only need to eat organic beef. Like, some people can't because they can't afford it. Some people can't because they don't have any other options. And if you want to support those growing methods, go for it. If you don't want to, that's fine. Like, we all have our things that we want to support. And I mean, I think it's a great option for people to have that we can, educate and also make a little bit more readily available. And also, like you guys, show them that, hey, if you support these brands already, you might already be supporting these practices that you are learning about, which is huge.
Exactly. And also just connecting things that we don't necessarily always think to an animal, like a leather handbag or a shoe, an Ugg boot. I mean, just remembering and educating the consumer on, a lot of the products we see around the world do come from livestock, and just reconnecting all of these fragmented pieces that have happened is an essential part. And without it, without that understanding that there are aspects of our supply chain that, interweave amongst many different industries that could come from the same exact animal. I saw a great graphic the other day on LinkedIn about it was essentially a cow, and it had a list of all the different products that could come from it. I mean, we're talking pharmaceuticals, we're talking hair products,
Oh yeah.
lip balm. I mean, it's just the list goes on and on. And every one of those products ideally could be coming from a regenerative land base. And you don't necessarily have to support regenerative agriculture. It's just you could be buying a chapstick and you're supporting a regenerative producer. You could buy a tallow candle and you could be supporting a regenerative producer. And you could still not eat meat, if you wanted to. So I know that still might go against the vegan message of
Yeah.
animal products, but it's just there's ways to be creative about supporting something like this.